Hello, and thank you for checking out my video. Today we are going to be replacing an alternator on a 1998 Honda Civic LX with a 1.6 liter. Just a quick disclaimer for you guys that plan on doing this in your driveway. This could very well be a pain in the ass to do. So just be aware that one of the bolts that hold the alternator on likes to seize really tight. But you know, it's a hit or miss. I had to go to the junkyard and look for a new bracket. And the bolt on both the cars I actually took out came out just fine. Wasn't seized up or anything. But on this car it is seized up. So without further ado, let me show you what we got. And again, 98 Honda Civic, 1.6 liter. And what happened is the battery light came on while I was driving it. So I need to replace the alternator, and I'm probably going to replace the belts while I'm down here too. So obviously the first step, I'm going to go ahead and put the front end on jack stands, and I'm going to move just the left front wheel. The next thing I'm going to do, the more obvious step, I'm going to disconnect the negative battery terminal. You want to do this, you don't want to have any power going to your generator or directly to it while you're doing this operation. I now have the front end of the vehicle lifted up, and I have the left front tire off. I know we're going to have to go underneath for some of this, so I'm going to go ahead and explain what we're going to do right now. There's a 10mm bolt down there that I've got my socket on that holds that wiring loop right there just to the left of it. I'm going to remove that nut, set it aside, get the wire out of the way. And then, I don't know, see further down there, there is a little bolt that attaches the alternator on to a bracket that mounts to the engine. You will have to loosen, not remove, but just loosen the bolt for right now. Okay, so I have that 10mm nut off. I have that 12mm tensioner bolt loose. I want to show you guys what I'm going to do next. Down there, if you look just underneath the master cylinder, you're going to have what looks like to be a 10 or 12mm nut right there, which is the eyelet part. And then to the left of it, you have a green connector, which needs to come off too. And then we're going to go underneath. I'm trying to get you a good picture here, but on the back of the alternator, there's going to be a little 8mm bolt that's holding a wire on. Make sure you grab that before you let this alternator go. Okay, so now we're on the bottom here. You have a 10 there, a 10 there. These are holding on your plastic. And then underneath it, you'll have another 10. All three will come out, and then you'll just set this back like so. And then I already did a couple of these steps yesterday, because now we're starting to get into the meat and bones of doing this alternator, which is this crossbow down here. It's a square head. It has to come out to get the alternator out. But bad news is it's usually really corroded and stuck in there. So you could be having all sorts of fun trying to remove this stud. I went ahead and blastered it yesterday. So that was the last thing I did before packing up and going inside. So the best thing you could possibly do is pound on it. That's what I was doing for a while. I'm gonna put my nut back on it. If you look straight into it, you can see, I mean, you almost have an edge there, but just not quite. So I'm gonna try to put a 14 back on it, and then maybe pound it with my socket, see what we can get. If not, we'll have to go back up top, remove that 12 and that 17, or 14, I'm sorry. And then we'll just have to wiggle the alternator back and forth until the bolt starts to break loose. So as far as this bottom bolt goes, I ultimately just ended up having to cut. I got the one side off, and there's the piece right there. I'm going to go ahead and cut that other side there, and then hopefully I'll be able to pry it forward enough so I can get the bracket out of the way. So that's may what you end up having to do, and I'll show you as soon as the other side is cut. Okay, so as I promised, it took quite a bit of cutting on this side. I'm not saying it's impossible to do, it is, because obviously I just did it. The alternator is now loose, so I can now move it where I need to move it so that I can do the next step. I'm going to try to get it off to the side as much as possible, because the next step is obviously that bracket we've been fighting with. We got to get 14 on both. I'll show you here. Okay, so there are two 14mm bolts. There's one kind of inside there I'm pointing at, and then there's one on the outside there. They're both 14s. You may have to use an extension or a deep one for the one nearest, because that one, the regular socket doesn't seem to fit. Here you have it. The alternator is now out. Now, I had to break a few of the splines on top there, and as you see, well, this bolt wasn't probably ever coming out because it was just that rusty in there. So we had to cut it out, and at least we have it out now. Now, one note two notes actually. The first note is that to solve the controversy of whether this comes out the top or comes out the bottom, this comes out the bottom. That's the way I got it out anyways. You may have to get the oil filter out of the way if you snake it too far in. You will not be able to get. The second thing to let you know on is that your car parts store has two different options for alternators on this vehicle. One's going to be an oval 3-pin connector, and the other is going to be a 4-pin connector. So bear that in mind when you go and purchase an alternator for this vehicle. I'm going to go get the alternator, and we'll be back. Well, I kind of stopped messing with that bolt because I needed to go to the junkyard to pick up a not only a bracket but also the center bolt. So here I am. This is actually the second bolt I've come across that's not rusted in there at all. I think I'm going to pull this bracket here because this is an actual LX. This is the actual engine I'm working with. And you can tell there because it's got that bracket. Master's same. So I'm going to pull an alternator from this. Well, I'm not going to pull the alternator. I'm just going to pull that bracket. Installation is going to be the reverse order of removal. But of course, when you have a pain in the butt like this, it's just important to put the alternator in exactly how you removed it. As you see from the picture, again, I went from the bottom and I got the new alternator in. So I'm going to just leave it right there all the way in back, and then I'm going to go ahead and get my mount. Now, a quick word about this bracket before you proceed to put it in. You can do this the easy way, or you can do this the hard way. The hard way is just to put it in just by itself. Just don't do nothing to it. The easy way is, you see this little sleeve right here on the very end? I would push it back as far as you can so that the alternator is just an easy fit. Okay guys, and so that's how it's done. That is how an alternator is replaced on a 98 Honda Civic. It's more or less, as far as time goes, it just depends. I mean, it could take you just an hour to get it done. If you're lucky. If you're not lucky, you could be looking several hours and a few curricular trips to the parts store. So in this case, I did end up having to replace the alternator bracket and the alternator bolt. So it's just something, you know, it's just something that happens on these. But luckily it's all done. Everything's good now. Battery lights went away. There's new belts on it. Hopefully I don't have to fix this piece until spring. Thank you for watching.